as long as I can remember, I've played devil's advocate. And for the people that don't know what that means, it basically means that even if someone comes up to you and they have a debate which you agree with, you actively play the opposite side just for the sake of debate, right? I've played devil's advocate since I was a kid. I don't really know why, but even if I agree with something or I understood something, I would debate against it. I'm not too sure why. I guess it was me wanting to know more about the opposite debate, if that made sense, or me wanting to know more about what I agree with, but see how someone else agrees with it, you know? And as I've grown up, I've realised that I play devil's advocate quite a lot, and it's kind of fun because even when I talk about the opposite thing, so like let's say you have a debate and I agree with one thing here, I would argue this side, because sometimes when I argue that debate, I go, oh wait, hold up, I've just thought of something that kind of makes sense on this side, and it makes me swing a bit more to that side. You know, like let's take for instance, you go back on the Stone Ages, right? And someone comes and tries to take your food, right? Now back in the Stone Ages, you'd protect your herd or your group of people, your food, tell this and that, and you'd kill that person, right? Nowadays, if someone tried to come and steal your sausage roll and you killed them, you'd be seen as a psycho. Now back then, you know, it was just a part of life, right? We were a lot more animalistic back then. I don't know if that's the right word. But nowadays we're a bit more civilized and we have a brain to think with a lot more, and we go about things in a different way, right? Now if someone takes your food, you may ask it back, or you may try to solve it diplomatically. Maybe you'll throw a punch in his face and take the sausage roll back. Who knows, if it gets a bit heated, hopefully the police will get called and things will be solved in that way, right? So, and I bring that argument up now because arguments when I was a kid are different from even just now when I'm 24. Things evolve and change. So if you don't constantly evolve and change and think in different ways, you'll get stuck. And if you get stuck in the Stone Age, you start doing and thinking outdated things that are pretty silly. I once had a debate with my teacher, and I might have been about 6 or 7. And the debate line was, humans have stopped evolving. And I argued different. I just learned about the evolution line, how we had kind of come from something like a monkey, maybe an orangutan, and how we evolved into what we are now, where we stand up bipedal and things like that. And so I understood what evolution meant, but I argued different. And I said that, you know, he had his phone out, and I said, you know, 10 years ago, maybe 20 years ago, you guys had these big brick phones, right? I didn't really know when, but I knew that these iPhones at the time were very new. They were very, you know, they were new. And I said, if evolution isn't a thing, how have we now got a phone that you could fit into your pocket, take anywhere and have reception? And, you know, let's say 30 years ago, 40 years ago, you had these big brick phones that you couldn't, you know, whatever. I don't know how long ago it was, maybe in the wartime, who knows, right? And he looked at me and said, okay, that's a good point, but that's not evolution of ourselves. But I said, but the brain needs to evolve and change and improve. Isn't that evolution, even if we can't see it? I would argue that it is. I think I still would argue that it is, because it's a change and improvement of our intelligence. We, as humans, the only reason why we are so far up in the food chain, and we're not at the top, as loads of people like to think, but we're up there, it's because of our intelligence, not because of our strength or our armoured bodies or anything. Maybe running, we're pretty good at running, but besides that, it's our intelligence, and obviously our opposable thumb helps us out quite a lot with that. So I would say that if you are, let's say 20 years old right now, and the thoughts you have right now and the understanding of the world you have right now, you just stay in that little brick of knowledge and wisdom and whatever until you're 85. the reality is the stuff you think is probably not as intelligent as it could be. It might not be as intellectually honest as it could be. Right? You need to kind of update and revise what you think and your views and your understanding. That doesn't mean that you can't still come back to the beliefs and understanding that you had at 20, but most likely if you're being intellectually honest with yourself, it will change, right? Your life will change, your opinions will change, you'll go through things that make you think different. And if you don't, you'll be stuck in the Stone Age. And ain't nobody killing someone over a Greggs sausage roll anymore. Well, you know, some people. But for the majority, you've evolved.